Official, the most arrogant, dishonest press secretary in modern American history. She will soon be gone in a little over a week. Chief propagandist Circleback Jen Psaki will step down after reportedly negotiating a big new contract with NBC News, the former home of Lying Brian. Anyway, I'm sure Psaki will feel right at home at the Conspiracy Channel network. And coming up, we're going to give her a proper and very special send-off. Jen, I hope you'll circle back with us and watch later. Also tonight, a disturbing story out of Los Angeles. The city's far-left district attorney is now refusing to pursue felony charges for the man that viciously assaulted comedian, I like Dave Chappelle a lot, he's funny as hell, anyway, but he attacked him while wielding a gun-shaped knife. A fake gun, a real knife, a gun that looked like a knife. We'll show you that in moments. And like many liberal cities, LA happily, there you can see, happily tolerates violent crime. No bail laws. Oh, let's see. Defund, dismantle the police. Oh, Kamala Harris praised the LAPD for defunding some of the LAPD. More straight ahead. First, we do turn to the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court, now surrounded by a large chain link fence with big cement barriers erected overnight to protect the building. Rightly so, in my opinion. We need to protect every institution, every monument, every person that serves in this government. This is the right thing to do. Hopefully, Democrats have learned something from the 574 riots in the summer of 2020 and the Capitol breach in 2021. By the way, still no answers as to why Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Muriel Bowser didn't use the up to 20,000 troops authorized, required by law by Donald Trump 2 days prior, again, as required by law. Why didn't they? Now, many people on the left are very, very angry that individual states and voters could soon decide abortion law for their state, overturning Roe v. Wade. All the talking points, all the lying, all the hysteria, it's not true. It will not outlaw abortion in the United States. That is the big lie that is being spread by the likes of Chuck Schumer, who himself threatened two justices, Justice Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court screaming, "You won't know what hit you," among other threats. And as we speak, they're threatening to burn our system to the ground. As per usual, Democrats are turning to their favorite political tactic. That's mob violence and intimidation. One liberal group is now organizing an effort to stalk and harass Supreme Court justices and their families at their homes. This is not okay in this country. But tonight, prominent Democrats, they refuse to condemn this threatening behavior, just like they refuse to ever speak out against the violence from their base in the 574 riots in the summer of 2020. Take a look.
So he doesn't care if they're protesting outside the Supreme Court or outside someone's private residence.
I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. The reason people are protesting is because women across the country are worried about their fundamental rights that have been law for 50 years. Their rights to make choices about their own bodies and their own health care are at risk. That's what people are protesting. They're unhappy. They're scared.
The message here, give us what we want or else, is that the message? Now, yesterday, a seemingly deranged Elizabeth Warren called Supreme Court justices right-wing extremists who have hijacked the Supreme Court. She tweeted, quote, "We must expand the court to rebalance it and defend our basic rights, including the constitutional right to an abortion." In other words, she wants a court that will do her bidding and her bidding alone. Now, Warren's comrade, the congenital liar, Adam Schiff, he also demonized the justices and called for court packing. By the way, Senator Mike Lee of Utah has a new book coming out on this very topic. Now, clearly, the marching orders have been given. Does this mean now what? The summer of 2020 and all the riots? Does that mean that season is back? I pray to God, no. My prediction is this: if God forbid something does happen, like the summer of 2020, 574 riots in America, we had dozens dead, thousands of cops injured, and tens of billions of dollars of property damage. And guess what? Nobody investigated anything, and the left defended it. They were silent when they needed to speak out. Their silence was deafening. They only condemned violence and riots that obviously advance their own political narrative. On this show, I have and I will continue to condemn all violence. Politics should not play a part in that. We should protect our institutions, our elected officials. That's a simple slam dunk for me. just like in 2020 during the BLM riots that left dozens dead, thousands injured. All of this happened. How is it that nobody covered this? How is it that many on the Democratic side were so unwilling to condemn what was obvious? Now, fake news CNN referred to it, right, that scene right there, as a fiery but peaceful demonstration. They actually said that. It's the same year Senator Rand Paul, you might remember, and his wife were nearly trampled by far-left protesters after the RNC convention. Left-wing rioters also showed up at Senator Mitch McConnell's home, confronted him and his wife. They also harassed the pair at a local diner. I'm sure you remember that moment. They also terrorized Senator Josh Hawley's wife and their newborn baby at their front door. They confronted Ted Cruz and his wife at a restaurant. They also harassed Trump's DHS secretary at a restaurant. We played that tape before because they didn't like Trump's border wall. In 2018, they stormed the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court. They pounded on the front door in order to disrupt Kavanaugh's confirmation. And more recently, they followed Senator Kristen Sinema into a bathroom and filmed her going into a stall because she wouldn't kill the filibuster. Now, they later then also took their kayaks out and they went over to Joe Manchin's houseboat because he wouldn't support Build Back Broke America. And while this far-left brand of political intimidation rarely works, Democrats, they just can't seem to help themselves. But don't worry, there'll never be an investigation into this. Take a look.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
But I like to debate this gentleman. And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take you behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
You gotta be ready to take a punch. You gotta be ready to throw a punch.
You get out and you stay in the crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
Everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not gonna let up, and they should not.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Get up in the face of some Congress people.
It does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
How dare he say the things he does? Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
But Michelle says that, when they go low, we go up. No. When they go low, we kick them.
My favorite was Barack Obama telling this guy, Mr. Burgess, we'll put Mr. Burgess up against Sean Hannity. He'll eat him up. I'm ready. Anyway, Democrats love mob rule, but only when they're on the losing side of an issue. Now they are 6 months away from what could be an election beatdown. It's no secret. The American people are not happy, rightly so. Inflation, historically bad. Gas prices, historically bad. The border, worse than ever. The supply chain crisis is totally messed up. No one on the world stage, or even in this country, it seems, likes Joe Biden or respects him. And now a massive drop today in the stock market could spell the beginning of a painful new recession. As President Trump very accurately predicted, Joe Biden is destroying this great American economy, and he's doing it in record time, sadly.
Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Oh, looks like Trump was right again. Anyone else miss low gas prices, record low unemployment, and major economic growth? Because that's what we got with President Trump. I'll choose that guy. That guy that calls out fake news for what they are, fake, and makes occasional mean tweets, but gets the job done. I choose him. Anyway, now under Biden, we get economic turmoil along with a cognitive mess as a president who blames all of his problems on Trump supporters or Vladimir Putin. Yesterday, he called us the most extreme political faction in modern American history, actually in American history. In response today, former President Trump, he reacted. He told FoxNews.com, quote, "Our country is going to hell. The Make America Great Again movement is saving America. My message to Joe is there is nothing extreme about energy independence and a secure border. There's nothing extreme about safe cities and the rule of law. There's nothing extreme about parental involvement in their children's education. There's nothing extreme about freedom of speech and freedom of expression. There's nothing extreme about individual states regulating abortion. And sadly, there is an extreme political faction in this country, but they're on the other side of the fence, outside the Supreme Court and inside the walls of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The most radical government ever elected in the modern era by far. It's not even close. Here with reaction, former senior counselor to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, also former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former White House Chief of Staff also Reince Priebus. Will toss a coin who is the better Chief of Staff. We'll let Kellyanne make the final toss. Kellyanne, we'll start with you tonight because President Trump was right again. You know, it's when people said, well, Donald Trump fought with the press. He called them fake news media and et cetera, et cetera. The country was so much better off. I never thought it would get this bad this fast, and I don't think any American did.
No, they did not. In less time than it takes to have a baby, Sean, they basically unraveled these great accomplishments and started to ruin America. Look, when the White House in which the three of us worked, nobody ever wondered who is the president, who's in charge, and what is he thinking. All of those were assured at every moment. But I have to say something about the montage of lunacy you treated us to at the beginning of your monologue. It should not be an occupational hazard to work at the United States Supreme Court as a justice or to be a family member of one of those justices. Some of them have small children. I think many of them have spouses. And the threats that are going to their safety, to their lives, are very worrisome. It is American to disagree, to dissent, to protest. It is a crime to threaten people's lives and worse, and publish their addresses and try to incite the kind of violence that we've seen in the past. And they're saying Ruth sent us, referring to the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. No, she didn't. She wasn't for violence like that. She never compelled anybody, never incited people to go to folks' houses. She and the late, great Antonin Scalia were the best of friends, by all accounts. So I really hope everybody turns down the temperature and law enforcement gets involved, because I'm very concerned. But as for these accomplishments, look, everybody knows Putin, Kim Jong-un, Iran, Xi Jinping, they were all at bay when Donald Trump was in there. Gas prices were lower, but our morale was higher too. You know, in the polls that actually include issue sets, but also ask just about the state of the nation, people are very unhopeful. I think the last time people really had hope was on Election Day 2016, when they felt there was going to be somebody different doing something differently. And now they're just unraveling. Spite is no way to run a country. Joe Biden thinks Donald Trump did it, I undo it. Spite is no way to run a country, folks, and that's what we've got.
So the MAGA movement, according to Joe Biden, Mark Meadows, the MAGA movement is the single greatest danger and most radical group in America. Let's see, people that believe in energy independence, secure borders, constitutionalists on the bench, free and fair trade, peace through strength. That's so radical. That's so over the top. I've never heard such ideas that were that crazy.
Well, listen, Sean, Kellyanne is exactly right. When we were in the White House, you didn't have to guess who was the president of the United States, because President Donald J. Trump was calling the shots and actually using the MAGA movement, which is more than just the Republican Party. That's where Joe Biden got it wrong. We've got Democrats and unaffiliated voters that are part of the MAGA movement that says that they believe that America should be great. We should celebrate the greatness. And when Joe Biden actually leaves $85 billion worth of weapons to the Taliban, that should be condemned. And when they start to politicize the Supreme Court, as they've done with leaking this document and ultimately by calls to pack the court and expand the number of justices so that liberal progressives can get their way, it's just not what America is all about. But it is what politics is all about, and that's why we should be calling out many of the progressive left that have an attack on the Supreme Court.
You know, Ryan, I brought up the 574 riots in the summer of 2020. We had dozens of dead Americans. We had thousands of cops injured. We had billions in property damage. I played the rhetoric. Kellyanne referred to it. And And the Democratic Party as a whole, their silence was deafening almost the entire time. It seems to me that when it comes to criticizing their radical base, and then I played comments of prominent Democrats and the ones that want to punch Donald Trump in the face and dream an awful lot about blowing up the White House, nothing ever happens to them. But if it was a conservative, if one day Sean Hannity lost his mind and said something that stupid, I don't think I'd ever do another show ever for the rest of my life. And I might have the FBI at my door asking a lot of questions, and they might put me in these really nice looking handcuffs that they have.
Well, that is so true. And here's where we're at. These are the tactics of liberals in America. The good news is that I think Americans are starting to reject these tactics. And what are the tactics? One is false labeling. They want to call everyone a white supremacist who has a MAGA hat on, who doesn't think that CRT should be taught in school. They call parents science deniers because they don't want their 2-year-olds and their 5-year-olds wearing masks. They call people who don't think that boys should compete against girls in sports transphobics. Then they move to deplatforming, and they say that if you post anything that we don't agree with, you're off of Twitter, you're off of Facebook, you're off of Instagram. Now Elon Musk says, basically, go jump in a lake, I'm going to take care of Twitter. Then what do? Then they resort to violence. And it's BLM, and it's Antifa. And the reason why, to answer your question, is that these are the tactics embraced by liberals. And every once in a while, I look at the rules for radicals, and we've talked about this before, but one of them in these rules for radicals is to find ways to intimidate, marginalize, and isolate and punish individuals that espouse opinions that you don't agree with. Sean, it's embedded in what they believe and how they operate. So this is not a surprise, but I do think Americans are starting to have enough of this stuff, and that's why they're going to get killed in November.
Kellyanne, when I played Chuck Schumer threatening Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, was that a threat? Because I think it was.
Yes, it was. And as for Chuck Schumer, I want this old white guy telling me what to do with my body, Sean, and how to think.
That's very woke of you. Go ahead.
No, it was a threat. It was a threat. He went to their place of work and threatened them.
Right.
By the way, have you noticed there's always cameras involved? They have to bother Ted and Heidi Cruz at dinner, Kirstjen Nielsen, the Secretary of Homeland. They've always got their camera out, and then they go, which makes you wonder. But I think it's all escalated now, and it's because of something you said earlier, which is that people are lying about what would happen if, in fact, that opinion holds and Roe versus Wade no longer exists. Of course, abortion will be accessible. People are lying about that, and the left benefits from the fact that a majority of Americans, when you ask them what did Roe versus Wade actually provide, they get it wrong. The Democrats love that. People know Planned Parenthood gets $500 million in taxpayer money. They were caught selling fetal tissue and baby body parts a few years ago. They're for 9th-month abortion. They're for sex selection abortion. They're for taxpayer-funded abortion. I would ask every liberal out there, every pro-choicer, just can you think of one abortion you think is a bad idea? Just one. Tell us. Describe it to us.
We have many states that allow
for that.
Kellyanne, we put up on the states in this union that allow abortion up until the moment of birth, and then of course we played Ralph Northam. Yes. Let me ask Mark Meadows this. Yeah, let me ask Mark this question. Now that they're giving out the addresses of Supreme Court justices, clearly this is all an effort to intimidate them, Mark, and maybe make the case as people like the congenital liar Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren are suggesting we pack the courts. But if, my message to conservatives would be never give out the address of any justice, any elected official, anybody that works on the lowest level of government. And if you ever see anybody in public, leave them the hell alone. Say hello if you want, be nice, otherwise leave them alone.
Well, leave them alone, and certainly what they're calling on a lot of the left to do and going to protest at some of these justices' homes is not only inappropriate, but it's dangerous. Listen, we love this country, and being able to protest and express your opinion is something that we should be able to peacefully do. And you can do those, in the public square. But to suggest that doxing, someone and giving out their address, this is all about intimidation. This is what the left has mastered, and they continue to master it. And where are the Democrats condemning this? When you think of the Supreme Court, no matter what the makeup of the court has been, is, or will be, you want them to be a neutral arbiter of the truth. And yet what we see are politicians and the left particularly pushing their agenda, and this leaked document is really an affront on the Supreme Court and that neutrality.
Let me give you the last word. Same question. I really now fear for these justices, and I would never want a conservative to ever act in the same way. Reince Priebus.
No, never. And I think that's the difference between Republicans, Democrats, liberals, and conservatives. Live by the golden rule, do unto others as you want to be done to yourself. But the real question, the real issue here is that Democrats and liberals, as Kellyanne said, they've taken it too far. They went to late-term abortion, they went to taxpayer abortions, and then they said, we're not going to tell parents when a 15-year-old girl wants to go after school and have an abortion. And that's when parents rose up. And parents are rising up all over this country like they did in Virginia. They're doing it here, and they're doing it across red states in America, and they're calling the question to the courts, and the justices are likely to respond.
All right. Thank you all for being with us. We appreciate it. Kellyanne, thank you. Mark Meadows, thank you. And Reince, thank you. It's official. Jen Psaki circling back around the White House for the final time later this month. She's leaving. She's going right there to MSDNC. We'll show you some of our favorite circle back moments from the outgoing press secretary. We're kind of honoring her with this. And then later, remember the man that attacked Dave Chappelle on stage, not facing felony charges when he had a fake gun with a real knife in it? Are you kidding me? Well,